Absolutely. Here's the full Section 1, minimum 700 words, of the story. Hashtag Section 1. The game begins. Humanity becomes prey. At first, the skies didn't burn. There were no great battles, no warnings, just vanishing villages, screams caught in digital static, and a growing silence across the globe. The first disappearance occurred in a remote Alaskan outpost. Entire families gone, doors still open, food half-eaten on tables. Within days, it was repeated in the Siberian tundra, Amazonian jungle, and the deserts of Namibia. Whatever was taking people wasn't invading. They were hunting. Humanity didn't know it yet, but Earth had become part of a galactic game. The players were the ARKL, a cold-blooded species that had evolved not just as predators, but as sportsmen, towering reptilian beings standing over 7 feet tall. Their scales glistened with armor-like sheen. They weren't interested in conquest or diplomacy. The ARKL hunted across worlds, and Earth had been selected for its most thrilling prey yet, humans. It was a tradition to them, a rite. Their homeworld, Sothcrawl, was a planet steeped in blood rituals and ancient predator cults. To them, chasing prey that could fight back was the highest honor. They had stalked forests on distant moons, jungles on dying planets, but humans were unique, emotional, clever, unpredictable. We were chaos wrapped in skin. We made them feel fear, and that, to them, was the ultimate sport. The earliest human survivors told terrifying stories. They spoke of glinting eyes in the night, of friends yanked into the trees without a sound, of metallic hisses, and alien war cries echoing across the valleys. Military patrols vanished. Entire squadrons deployed into disturbed zones never returned. The ARKL didn't attack like an army. They moved like ghosts, setting traps, isolating targets, and picking them off one by one. A hunt, a game, a show, broadcast across their empire for the amusement of billions. And Earth's governments? They crumbled, first under fear, then under infighting. The major world powers launched counterattacks, nuclear strikes, orbital defenses, drone fleets. But nothing touched the ARKL command ships cloaked far above the stratosphere. The aliens weren't interested in all-out war. They ignored cities' power grids and air bases. Instead, they deployed hunting packs to rural zones, forests, and ruins, where humans were most vulnerable. Within months, the world had splintered into chaos. Borders became meaningless. Governments turned into shadows of themselves. The rich retreated to bunkers. The poor ran into the woods. And in the absence of order, the ARKL thrived. They hunted alone or in pairs, tracking individuals for days, studying patterns. They left behind trophies, skinned bodies, bone carvings, or alien glyphs drawn in blood. Messages, perhaps, or rituals, or mockery. In northern India, a small town near the Himalayas fought back briefly. A local hunter used ancient techniques to lay traps. The town lasted a week before the ARKL retaliated with a brutal culling, stringing bodies from the trees like trophies. Footage from drones showed them moving in silence, cloaked in shimmering light, dragging screaming villagers into the fog. One survivor, blind in one eye, said, "They didn't kill to eat. They killed to feel." The psychological collapse was more devastating than any physical war. Cities emptied themselves in terror. People refused to sleep, fearing the hiss of an ARKL in the dark. Children were taught not to cry, because noise meant death. Technology failed not because of alien sabotage, but human paralysis. Satellites were left unmaintained. Power grids failed due to panic and neglect. The Earth dimmed, not from weapons, but from hopelessness. But even in this darkness, seeds of resistance began to form. In the snow-covered mountains of Afghanistan, a unit of forgotten soldiers, abandoned by their government, refused to die quietly. They studied the patterns. They mapped the alien footprints. They planted explosives in narrow passes. When the ARKL hunting duo entered their kill zone, the humans didn't run. They fought. The battle was brief but legendary. It was the first recorded instance of humans killing ARKL warriors. One alien was torn apart in a fiery blast. The second was dragged down and gutted with bayonets. The soldiers took trophies of their own, black blood-soaked armor, shattered rifles, and hollowed-out helmets. They recorded the whole thing, broadcasting it from a satellite relay jury-rigged with car batteries and solar panels. That footage, gritty, grainy, desperate, ignited a spark. Across the world, scattered survivors saw it. Proof that the ARKL could bleed. Proof that they were not gods, not untouchable. And more importantly, proof that humans still had the will to fight. In the underworld of Lagos, a hacker collective translated the ARKL glyphs and discovered their term for humans, Vireknal, which loosely meant asterisk thrill prey. Asterisk it wasn't a name. It was a warning to themselves. Even then, some of them suspected what was coming. They had mistaken fear for weakness. But fear in humans was a forge, and from that forge, something began to rise. Let me know when you're ready for Section 2F, or if you'd like this adapted into a YouTube narration script, F, or visual storytelling format, F. Absolutely. Here's the full Section 2, minimum 700 words. Hashtag Section 2. From survival to strategy, the rise of human resistance. They had come expecting animals, primitives with guns and fear. What they encountered instead was a species that had survived plagues, world wars, and extinction-level events, armed not with arrogance, but with grit. Humanity had been wounded, yes, disoriented, scattered, but not broken. And soon, survival turned to something sharper, strategy. After the first recorded ARKL kill in Afghanistan, a message began circulating across the black web, pirate radio channels, and even etched into walls of survivor settlements. They can bleed. These 3 words echoed like a war cry across every ruined continent. Where people once whispered in fear, they now spoke in whispers of revenge. The resistance was not born in a conference room or a military base. It was born in the dirt, in the woods, in shattered cities and storm drains. It began with scattered act of defiance, an ambush patrol here, a booby-trapped trail there. Farmers turned to guerrilla fighters. Teenagers, growing up among the ruins, learned to wield alien weapons like veterans. Every survivalist, every tinkerer, every rebel found purpose. Across the Andes, retired engineer Diego Ramos constructed a directional EMP cannon using salvaged microwave towers and ARKL debris. It brought down an alien skiff mid-hunt. In rural China, elderly villagers set elaborate traps using bamboo and buried explosives, wiping out 3 elite ARKL stalkers. These weren't soldiers. They were survivors, and their ingenuity was limitless. In Australia, a group of ex-special forces and civilian outcasts formed a coalition called the Scorchborn. Operating out of the desolate outback, they perfected long-range ambushes and heat mirage camouflage. They studied the ARKL like biologists, mapping behavior, scanning blood samples, and reverse engineering scavenged tech. Their leader, Major Kenzie Ward, coined a phrase that would later become infamous across the galaxy. Predators get lazy when they think they're the only hunters. Humanity's genius wasn't brute force. It was adaptation. Within months, underground labs began retrofitting ARKL tech into usable forms. Plasma-based spears were converted into railgun sniper rounds. Stealth shields were hijacked and reprogrammed. Ancient bunkers were restored and networked into an encrypted comm grid, codenamed Iron Web. Hackers in the ruins of Berlin accessed alien drones, feeding resistance units real-time battlefield data. In Chicago's flooded underbelly, scavenger kids rebuilt a long-dead satellite link using old NASA servers. Information became the greatest weapon. Each encounter with the ARKL, win or lose, was logged. Anatomy, reaction times, hunting patterns, preferred environments, death counts, psychological profiles. The Resistance built a database they called the Field Manual, which was distributed through encrypted data drops, AR visors, and even coded graffiti in the streets. But the true turning point came when humans began to understand the ARKL psyche. These weren't mindless beasts. They were bound by ancient hunting codes, rituals, and status hierarchies. ARKL hunters didn't just kill for fun. They competed for reputation. That arrogance was exploitable. In Eastern Europe, Resistance operatives spread false challenges using hacked transmissions. Worthy prey. Zones were set up in ravines and collapsed cities, baiting elite hunters into traps rigged with EMP nets, gas bombs, and collapsing buildings. The humans didn't always win, but they learned. The ARKL, meanwhile, began to shift tactics. They deployed more seasoned hunters, larger packs, heavier weapons. They even began using PSYOP broadcasts, projecting fear-based pulses to disorient survivors. But the more they escalated, the more resilient humanity became. Losses only sharpened resolve. Mourning turned into motivation. Then came the Battle of the Namib Dead Zone, a turning point few ARKL would survive. A massive hunting fleet landed near a former mining zone in Namibia, expecting to engage isolated prey. Instead, they found themselves in a battlefield mined with thermoreactive charges and sonic disruption traps. Resistance snipers lined the cliffs. Reprogrammed ARKL drones turned on their masters. Within hours, 23 ARKL hunters were dead. Their leader, an elite predator known as Threx Veruin, was publicly executed and broadcast across captured alien frequencies with a simple message: "We are not prey. We are retribution." The galaxy watched. For the first time in centuries, an ARKL hunting campaign failed spectacularly. On Softcrawl, debates broke out among their high castes. Should they escalate further? Should they withdraw? Was it honorable to continue a hunt when the prey had become predators? But the ARKL misunderstood humanity again. They thought they were facing revenge. What they were really facing was memory, the kind passed down in blood and fire. Humans remembered the genocides, the disappearances, the body trophies hung in trees. And they made a collective vow: never again. By now, humanity's fractured networks were reconnecting. Bunkers across continents, linked through satellite bounce relays. Resistance cells formed code names and shared playbooks. Maps of ARKL drop sites became public. Children born in the ruins learned two things before they could walk: how to load a rifle and how to disappear. In one powerful moment, a resistance broadcast played across hacked ARKL viewing towers. "We are not your sport. You've turned Earth into a killing field. Now it's our hunting ground." It was no longer about survival. It was about strategy. Revenge had become organized. The hunted were now baiting the hunters. Earth, once a prize for the ARKL, was rapidly becoming a trap. And from the shadows, humanity sharpened its blades, ready for the next stage, not to defend, but to reclaim. Let me know when you're ready for Section 3F, or if you like this expanded into a novel chapter, F, or adapted into a voiceover-ready script, F. Of course. Here is Section 3 of They Hunted Us for Sport. We hunted them to extinction with a minimum of 700 words. Hashtag Section 3. The turning tide, Earth's reclamation begins. The moment came slowly, like dawn after a long and endless night. But when it came, the world shifted. No longer were humans merely reacting, hiding, or hoping to survive another day. Now, for the first time since the ARKL set foot on Earth, we had the advantage. It began with the activation of the Phoenix Grid. From the remnants of buried data centers, scattered research labs, and orbital relay satellites, a decentralized resistance command was formed, coded, encrypted, and built from broken pieces of what once was humanity's technological marvels. This grid allowed real-time communication across continents. No central command. No single leader. Just a network of determined survivors trading blueprints, intelligence tactics, and targets. The ARKL, for all their technological superiority, had failed to understand one thing. Humanity is most dangerous when it is united by loss. Resistance cells flourished. In the subways of Tokyo, former engineers and ex-gamers ran drone control hubs. In the collapsed spires of Dubai, snipers perched like ghosts, tagging alien patrols from a mile away. Across the Canadian wilderness, old survivalists taught children how to navigate by the stars and kill silently in snow. They didn't just survive, they trained. For every dead human, 3 ARKL fell. The ratio kept improving. Then came the Great Rift Offensive, the moment that turned a global resistance into an interstellar symbol. In Kenya's Great Rift Valley, ARKL Command scheduled a massive ceremonial hunt to redeem their recent losses. They believed Earth's resistance had grown arrogant, and they sought to crush it with overwhelming force. Over 24 ARKL drop ships descended, carrying their finest hunters, those who had never known failure. They didn't know they were flying straight into a trap. For weeks, resistance fighters had prepared the terrain. Caves were rigged with shape-chart collapses. Local tribesmen disguised deep pits with metal spikes. Reclaimed ARKL drones mapped every inch of the battlefield. The plan was simple. Let the ARKL land, spread out, and then close the noose. When the ambush was sprung, it was brutal and elegant. Explosives hidden beneath stone outcroppings shattered the alien formations. Fighters in ghillie suits emerged from the underbrush like shadows, wielding pulse rifles retrofitted from salvaged ARKL weapons. From the cliffs above, synchronized rocket barges fell like fire from ancient gods. The result was a massacre. In less than 6 hours, the entire ARKL force was annihilated. None escaped. Their bodies were burned, their gear seized. The victory wasn't just tactical, it was symbolic, and humanity made sure the galaxy knew. Resistance hackers uploaded footage of the offensive across hijacked ARKL communication relays. Billions of alien viewers, across dozens of species once subjugated by the ARKL, watched in disbelief as the so-called prey unleashed coordinated devastation. Earth was no longer a game reserve. It was a killing ground for them. Back on Softcrawl, panic gripped the ruling hunter caste. Debates erupted within the Great Conclave. Some advocated for a full-scale war, others for complete withdrawal. But for the ARKL, honor was everything. Abandoning a hunt meant admitting weakness. And they had never done that before. They should have. The ARKL failed to realize that every new squad they sent to Earth wasn't just being fought. They were being studied. Captured bodies revealed subtle differences in anatomy. Each new piece of gear was disassembled and understood. Human scientists, biologists, and engineers, many of them former teachers and students before the fall, worked from bunkers to catalog and reverse engineer ARKL advancements. Within months, human-forged plasma rifles began appearing on the battlefield. Cloaking tech was adapted for ambush teams. Even the aliens' complex blood filtration systems were replicated, allowing humans to survive in alien environments. The hunted weren't just retaliating, they were evolving. In the ruins of Cairo, Commander Liana Osei, once a geneticist, now led a specialized strike force called the Jackals. They operated only at night, targeting high-ranking ARKL leaders. Her squad assassinated the Supreme Huntmaster in a dramatic raid, leaving behind a single message. You taught us to stalk. We learned well. These victories inspired more than just humans. Across the galaxy, species once enslaved or hunted by the ARKL began watching Earth's rise with reverence. Underground resistance channels in alien territories began transmitting messages of solidarity. If humans can do it, so can we, became a whispered chant in the streets of 100 conquered worlds. Back on Earth, something extraordinary happened. A sense of global identity reemerged, not through politics, religion, or borders, but through shared pain and victory. The flags of old nations became symbols of the past. Now, people wore a single insignia, the burning Fong, a stylized image of an ARKL skull engulfed in flame. It was a symbol of vengeance, of resistance, and of rebirth. Earth itself changed. Cities were no longer seats of government, but fortresses of innovation and defense. Farmlands were redesigned as tactical zones. High-altitude nests housed snipers and drone controllers. Rivers were laced with hidden hydro turbines, powering weapon labs and data centers. For the first time in centuries, the ARKL recorded Earth as a red zone, hostile, lethal, uncontrollable. And yet, humans weren't satisfied. The Phoenix Grid issued a new protocol, off-world expansion. It was time to take the fight beyond Earth. Using captured ARKL vessels and ancient buried tech reawakened from old NASA deep space labs, the Resistance began constructing their first starships. Crude, ugly, effective, they had been hunted long enough. The tide had turned, and humanity was sailing with it straight into the stars. Let me know when you're ready for Section 4F, or if you'd like this structured into a screenplay F or audiobook format. F as well. Certainly. Here's Section 4, minimum 700 words, of the story They Hunted Us for Sport, We Hunted Them to Extinction. Hashtag Section 4. The final hunt. Extinction of the ARKO. By the time humanity looked up at the stars again, it was not with wonder, but with vengeance. Earth had changed. No longer a helpless battleground. It had become a forge that reshaped an entire species. From ashes, we had built not only resistance, but reckoning. The hunted had risen, and now they would hunt back. It began with the launch of the Nemesis fleet, a patchwork armada of retrofitted ARKO vessels, salvaged orbital stations, and human-designed strike ships cobbled together from the ruins of Earth's old space programs. Their cores were powered by fusion reactors scavenged from ARKO crafts. Their hulls bore the scars of Earth's war zones. And their crews? Survivors, orphans, rebels, soldiers who watched their homes burn and vowed never to let another child see their planet become prey. The target was not a moon or outpost. It was Soft Crawl itself, the ARKO homeworld, a place of vast obsidian towers, red skies, and arenas where sentient species had once been hunted for sport in front of cheering alien crowds. A planet that had never been touched by war. Until now, human intelligence knew their culture intimately by this point. Weak points in their atmosphere, orbital defense gaps, their deeply ingrained sense of honor that often blinded them to pragmatic tactics. The fleet didn't attack head-on. Instead, it slipped in through asteroid fields, darkened their hulls, and descended beneath sensor coverage. The first blow was surgical. A cloaked strike ship dropped a kinetic rod from orbit into their planetary center hull, vaporizing the ruling caste in an instant. Soft Crawl erupted into chaos. Their leaders were gone, their sky bleeding smoke. And the real assault had yet to begin. Resistance ground teams touched down in multiple cities under the cover of firestorms. These weren't formal armies. They were ghosts with rifles. Urban fighting broke out in streets that had never seen blood. ARKO citizens, for the first time in centuries, knew what it meant to be helpless. The very sensation they had inflicted on Earth now visited them tenfold, and the resistance gave no quarter. Special operations units moved swiftly through the planet's neural command centers, disabling planetary shields and communication hubs. Former scavengers from Earth, trained in alien tech, hacked into Soft Crawl's planetary network and broadcast every atrocity the ARKO had committed across their empire. Mass executions, trophy hunts, the screams of 1,000 species. They played it all, publicly, over every screen, tower, and neural link. Other enslaved or hunted species across the galaxy, many who had once believed in the myth of ARKO supremacy, rose in that moment. Civil disobedience turned into riots. Riots turned into armed rebellions. The dominoes fell. Back on Soft Crawl, Resistance Commander Elijah Caron, a former street medic turned tactician, stood before the burned gates of the ARKO archives, the vault that stored every recorded hunt, every trophy kill, and the histories of their so-called glorious past. He raised a pulse torch and incinerated it all. No memorial, no legacy, no more myths of predators and prey. Just ashes. Still, some ARKO refused to surrender. They gathered in mountain strongholds and forest sanctuaries, hoping to continue their ancient traditions. Humanity didn't wait for diplomacy. Strike teams dropped from orbit, eliminating the last of the ARKO hunting guilds in brutal precision raids. One by one, the icons of the ARKO empire fell. Their war beasts were slaughtered, their temples razed, their planetary defense satellites turned against their own ships. By the end of it, only scattered bands remained, leaderless, broken, exiled. No longer hunters, not even warriors, just survivors. But humanity had learned the cost of mercy. They remembered the chains, the hunted villages, the forests soaked in blood, the mothers who buried empty cradles. So they hunted the last of the ARKO across the stars, into asteroid fields, rogue planets, collapsing moons. And when they found them, they didn't kill with rage. They killed with memory. The ARKO species was declared extinct in the galactic concordant 5 years later. Not through biological death, but cultural erasure. Their history was gone. Their religion dismantled. Their language spoken only in ruins. The galaxy no longer feared them. They had become a cautionary tale. And Earth? It became something more. Once a blue world on the edge of known space, Earth was now a beacon, a planet of warriors, scholars, and survivors. Its orbit housed orbital shipyards and defense rings. Its surface, once scarred by fire, bloomed with renewal. And among the stars, humans led a new alliance, a federation of the once hunted, now protectors of the weak. Where the ARKL had dominated with fear, humanity led with fury and justice. Children on distant planets studied the story in school, how one species, beaten and scattered, rose from extinction to bring extinction to their oppressors, how the hunted became the hunters. On a silent, wind-worn plateau on Earth, far from the cities and colonies, stands a statue, not of a soldier, not of a general, but a child, clutching a broken mask of an ARKL warrior, staring into horizon, unafraid. Etched at its base are the final words broadcast from Soft Crawl before the planet fell. They hunted us for sport. We hunted them to extinction. Would you like a compiled version of the entire 2,800-word story or a PDF/ebook ready version F?